If you did not realize by now, Decidueye is my favorite Pokemon. Around him I built my whole channel, but if we stay and analyze it for a moment, we can agree that it's not a perfect Pokemon. Actually, it's not even close, sitting in NU along Chinchino, Liger, Scyther, though keep in mind I'm talking about the single battles format, not the official format, that being of course the VGC. But how is this possible? Well, let me tell you a story about the Decidueye. The story started in 1926, when a man... wrong story. So, the year was 2016, and Game Freak just announced the starters for the new generation. At that time, nobody knew what threats were just chilling in those 3 little Pokemon. People expected a lot of things, and they got a VGC Demon in Incineroar, and Primarina being a not so bad Pokemon sitting in UU. But what happened to the Decidueye? Well, to be honest, the Decidueye had its glory time in the first months of the game being out. Players were testing the new Pokemon still, and the Decidueye was a decent one in their eyes. Being a good Pokemon against bulky teams, and the fact that he was half ghost helped with the toxic dog stalls that happened in that period. But every good thing comes to an end, because as the lower tiers were established, the Decidueye dropped from OU in UU, then surpassed by Delmise, a way better physical grass ghost type, in RU, and finally in NU. Fast decline, huh? Today I was thinking, what can Game Freak do to the Decidueye to make it better? I mean, it could be a decent Pokemon if Game Freak would buff him little by little, but then the inspiration struck me. Why not buff the Decidueye myself? I mean, how hard could it be, right? Well, first of all, I want to mention that my competitive knowledge is very little compared to many other people. In conclusion, I know I'll say stupid things, so please correct me in the comments. Next, I'm clearly not going to give the Decidueye Wonder Guard or Roar of Time or give him legendary stats, so I've came up with a few rules. 1. I'm not allowed to give the Decidueye any more stat points than it already has, but I can change them. So basically, I can't put 10 more points into his attack without lowering another stat. This is because I want his BST to remain the same. 2. I'm allowed to give him moves, change his ability, or change his stats only if the design or inspiration for the Pokemon permits it. So can't give him Scale Shot, Sturdy, and make his defenses higher than fucking Regirock, because let's be serious, the Decidueye looks like a stick with wings. 3. I can't invent abilities, moves, or use signature abilities or moves from other Pokemon. And finally, 4. I can't modify his type in any way. Now that we established this, we can start with the first thing I do, that is... Oh my god, the Decidueye's stats are awful. I get that his typing goes more for a glass cannon than a bulky or even supportive type, but his stats do not correspond at all with that. With 70 base speed, he is slower than a lot of threats in OU like Cerulege, Dragonite, Goldengo, all of the future Paradox forms, and Raging Bolt. Well, I know Raging Bolt uses Thunderclap most of the time, which has +1 priority, but we don't talk about that, okay? So, let's modify his stats a bit. As you can see on the screen, we have the new stats of the Decidueye. I'll explain you my thought process when modifying his stats so we can be on the same page. I balanced his defenses to not be too underwhelming but still bad, because this Pokemon, as we discussed earlier, will be a glass cannon. This Pokemon is supposed to resist one attack, set up with Swords Dance and then sweep. I made him exactly 107 speed to outspeed some OU Pokemon like Enamorus with 106 and Iron Threads also with 106. And then I buffed his attack so he can actually use his high speed in combination with a high crit Leaf Blade or Spirit Shackle. Now that we're done with the stats thing, we can go on to ability. Long range as an ability is a gamble, because you don't know if you'll encounter a static Pokemon, or a flame body Pokemon, or a rocky helmet one, and even though Glimmora is still a thing, 90% of them run Stealth Rock anyway, so you're just better off switching in a special attacker for killing it without dropping Toxic Spikes. Or just use Rapid Spin. So for new ability, I chose Sniper, because the Decidueye gets access to 2 high crit chance moves in Shadow Claw and Leaf Blade, that by the way are stab, basically making him one-shot almost anything if he has some crit luck. I thought about giving him the ability Hustle and buff Spirit Shackle to never miss, but I think Sniper would just fit better on an Archer Pokemon. Next, we'll give the Decidueye some new moves, cause why not? Again, keep in mind that I don't want to make him broken, just usable, playable in the higher ranks like UU and OU. I chose 2 moves to give to the Decidueye. To embrace the Sniper ability even more, I'll give it Night Slash, for more crit plays and some coverage while still putting pressure on the enemies, because if that 1 in 8 chance of critting happens, the enemy most probably won't have a word to say. But don't you think 1 in 8 is a bit, I don't know, low? I mean, most of the Pokemon battles end in an average of 25 rounds, so that 1 in 8 chance won't do many things, but can we make it higher? Well, the answer is yes, and the obvious answer would be playing the Decidueye with a Scope Lens that would boost his chances of getting a crit from 1 in 8 to 1 in 2, basically a 50% chance, much better odds. But I think I have a better idea. As I said, I'll give the Decidueye 2 new moves, but I only mentioned 1. So call me crazy, but I'll give the Decidueye Focus Energy. Yes, that move that you were always asked to use on a Pokemon just to consider it garbage and instantly select no in the learning screen. But just hear me out. First though, I need to explain how the crit boosts work. Unlike other stats like attack or speed, crit rates are boosted only 4+ times at best, though from Gen 7 onward the 4th stage was kinda useless. I'll show a chart on the screen right now. You may see that a high crit move gives +1 crit chance, and that makes the chance go from 1 in 24 to 1 in 8. Crazy, right? Well, that means that by using 1 high crit move and set up with Focus Energy once, you can guarantee a crit on literally every hit. And even though that doesn't sound like much, keep in mind only looking at the OU Pokemon, only 6 Pokemon can tank the Decidueye's attacks, the Decidueye using specifically this set by the way, 9 can outspeed him, but maybe sometimes not even the ones that outspeed it can OHKO it in 1 hit, and none can do both. So you outspeed him, get 1 hit off and then you're dead. But even though you might think this is overpowered, keep in mind the enemies can still do a lot of damage in the setup round, and because the set is built to be a glass cannon, the Life Orb will probably kill him before he can sweep an entire team by himself. That is, if he's injured in the setup turn. But you never know. Unfortunately, this is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. By the way, YouTube thinks you'll like this video, so you can watch it if you want. As always, have a great day or night. Decidueye out.